real numbers. Okay, you ever wonder why that word real is splashed all over a lot of math books? It's to distinguish the real numbers from the imaginary numbers. Okay, we're not going into the imaginary number world in this course, so if you have any experience with it, you know what it is, but nothing to worry about here. We're just going to talk about real numbers. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing real numbers. How hard can that be, right? It's not bad at all. Okay, we just have to be careful with the negatives. Okay, so let me just quickly look at a number line. And of course we have our calculators. Okay, we have positives to the right, negatives to the left, all the way off to what we call infinity, which is like a figure 8 on its side, and over here negative infinity, a figure 8 on its side. Okay? When we are adding numbers together, you can just think up and down the number line. Okay, if I'm adding a positive number, I'm going to go to the right. If I'm adding a negative number, I'm going to go to the left. So if I wanted to say 4 plus negative 2, and the notation, by the way, when we talk negative numbers, you're never supposed to have two signs side by side. Okay, now that the review book that this course, that discusses this course doesn't do that. So I of course scowled at the book as a math teacher, but really that's improper, bad etiquette right there. Okay, you never should have two signs side by side. So the parentheses are only to separate the signs. Okay, a lot of times parentheses are used for multiplication. In this case, no, just to separate the plus sign from the negative sign. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to go 4 steps in the positive direction, then we're going to go 2 steps in the negative direction, so that'll get us at positive 2. How about negative 3 plus 5? Well, we're going to go 3 steps in the negative direction and then 5 steps in the positive direction. That'll get us to positive 2. How about 4 plus negative 6? Well, I'm going to go 4 steps in the positive direction, but then 6 steps in the negative direction, negative 2. So it's real easy to think up and down the number line when you're adding. Okay, when you're subtracting, not so easy anymore. Okay? But if you don't want to think up and down a number line, you just want to remember the basic rules, here they are. If you're adding two numbers that have the same sign, okay, now if they're both positive, you know, duh, right? I mean, who needs help with that? Both positive, we got it. 4 plus 5 is 9. Just simply add them. But if they're both negative, we're also going to just simply add them and get a 9, except it's going to be a negative 9. Okay? If I thought number line, I don't have nearly enough room here, but if I went negative 4, and then I went negative 5 more off the page here, I'm moving the page, over here, I'd be at negative 9. Okay? Let's do one we can see. Negative 1 plus negative 3. Negative 1, negative 3, that's going to get me down here to negative 4. Okay, oops, I didn't mean to put negative down twice. Okay, so when I have the same sign, I simply, what's the proper way to say this would be to add the absolute value. And real quick, what is absolute value? And there might be a question about that actually now that I think about it. Absolute value is shown in a pair of vertical bars. Okay, we got to have a little sidebar here. And if I put a number in there, that just is asking me how far away from 0 is that number. So let me stick a 5 in here. How far away from 0 is the number 5? How many steps? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 steps away, right? Just how many steps? I don't care if it's positive or negative steps. Just tell me the number of steps. So tell me the number of steps to get from 0 to negative 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 steps. Okay, so the absolute value wipes out any negative sign that's inside of it. It's just talking about distance away from 0. That's it. Distance away from 0. I don't care if it's positive or negative distance, just count the number of steps, okay? So the big thing is when I have a negative in there, the negative gets wiped away. Okay, so the technical kind of definition here. Adding two numbers with the same sign. Add the absolute values. It sounds like such a production here. Well, I got to take the absolute value of that, and then I got to take the absolute value of that and add them together. So that's a 1, and that's a 3, so that's a 4. Okay, but then I got to go back and say, well, what was the sign to begin with? They were both negative to begin with, so then my answer is negative 4. Okay, big production. Don't think big production. If the signs are the same, add the absolute values and keep the same sign. Okay? Negative 6 plus negative 8. 8 and 6 is 14, so it's negative 14. Okay? And obviously, you know, again, positive plus positive, no brainer. Got it. Okay, well, what if we're adding numbers with opposite signs? Adding numbers with opposite signs. Well, let's quickly think up and down the number line one more time. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. We said if I have like a 2 plus a negative 3, let's say. I'm adding them, except one's positive and one's negative. Well, what did I do? I stepped 2 places to the right, then I went 3 places to the left, and I got a negative 1. Okay, so what we really did is we subtracted 3 minus 2 to get a 1, right? We took the absolute value of each one. If we painstakingly look at the procedure, we took the absolute values, we got a 2 and a 3, we subtracted that, 2 minus 3 is 1, and then we had to go back and ask ourselves a question. And we had to say, who was bigger to begin with? Is the 2 bigger or the 3 bigger? Well, 3 is bigger, 3 is negative, answer is negative. Okay? I call it the battle of the signs. Who wins the battle of the signs? Whoever was bigger to begin with. Okay, so let's try this one. Negative 8 plus 10. One's negative and one's positive, so I'm really going to subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2, and then I got to do the battle of the signs. Is it going to be a positive 2 or a negative 2? 10's bigger than 8, 10's positive, answer's positive. 8 plus negative 12. 8 plus negative 12. So 12 minus 8 is 4. I'm really subtracting when I'm adding numbers with opposite signs, but I have to figure out, is it a positive 4 or a negative 4? 12's bigger, 12's negative, answer's negative. Okay? All good there? Calculator-wise. Now, the calculator I have in front of me here is not the calculator you're going to have on the exam. Okay? I don't have that calculator. I might have a picture of it. I'll pull it up in the next video since I'm thinking about it right now. But most of your quote-unquote modern calculators have a negative button down here at the bottom. It's a little negative in parentheses. That's your negative button. It's not the same as your normal subtraction button over here. Okay, so if we want to do a few of these, let's just do that last one. 8 plus negative 12. Enter, negative 4. Okay? I have a blemish on the screen or something. What is that? Alright, what about negative 20 plus 6? Negative 20 plus 6. One's positive, one's negative, so I know I should really subtract that and get a 14, right? It's going to be positive or negative 14. Which one? Bam-o, negative 14. Okay? Battle of the signs. 20's bigger than 6, 20's negative. Okay? So that's the deal. You will probably have that button on your calculator. I'll double check. Older style calculators had a button that had like a plus/minus on it. And those we actually had to treat a little differently. So I'll double check that before the next video on your calculator. And I'll write down for you what you need to know. Okay. So there we go there. Adding numbers. Just adding. We haven't subtracted yet. We've had negative signs in there, but we've only added, we have not subtracted. Okay? So far so good. You throw a little algebra into the mix. Why not? Now we could throw fractions. I just thought of that. We could throw fractions into the mix. Let's throw a fraction in there. Negative 2/3 plus I don't know, 1/6. Why not? Negative 2/3 plus 1/6. We need a common denominator, right? It happens to be a 6 in this case, so I'm going to multiply this one by 2 over 2. Negative 4/6 plus 1/6. Well, that equals a negative 3/6, doesn't it? Because one's positive, one's negative. I'm really going to subtract and get a 3/6, but it's negative, bad with the signs, and of course with a fraction problem, we have to reduce it. Okay, and everybody I think knows negative 3/6 would be the same as negative 1/2. Incidentally now, when it comes to fractions and negatives, negative 1/2 is the same as 1/-2 is the same as a negative sign in front of the whole fraction. All three of those are the same. I preferred this one. It's rather awkward to have the negative in the denominator. Okay, it's just cleaner to have it in the numerator. Most of your textbooks and other things will put it there. Okay? The reason I don't like it there is because if you get sloppy and blend it into the fraction bar, it's gone. You lost it. Okay? So I'll always stick it in the numerator. But most of your textbooks and things like that will put it in front of the whole fraction. Doesn't matter, they're all the same. You just can't put them in multiple places at the same time because that changes things, okay? But it has to be somewhere, okay? In this case, numerator. Alright, let's throw a little algebra into the mix. Let's say we've got negative 11x plus 7x. Same old rules, one's positive, one's negative, so I'm really going to subtract and get a 4x. But I need to ask myself, is it going to be a positive or a negative 4x? In this case, a negative 4x, right? Okay, what about, trick it up here a little bit, 3 parentheses 7x plus 8, close parentheses, plus negative 25. And let's stick in a plus negative 4. There we go. Alright, let's do this one. Distribute. We're going to get a 21x plus 24. Let me tweak this a little bit. I want to put an x after that 25. Okay? And then we had plus negative 25x and plus negative 4. Alright, combine like terms. I've got a positive 21x and a negative 25x. One's positive, one's negative. I'm really going to subtract and get a 4x, but it's going to be a negative 4x because battle of the signs. Same thing here, a positive 24 and a negative 4 is going to give me a positive 20. Okay, all good? Alright. Subtraction. Subtraction. Well, let's talk about this concept of opposites for a moment. Opposites. An opposite is the same absolute value with the opposite sign. So the opposite of 5 is negative 5. The opposite of negative 6 is positive. Not positive 5. Is positive 6. Okay? Same absolute value, opposite sign. Okay? Subtraction. Listen to this now. Subtraction can be thought of as adding. Huh? Thought we were subtracting. Yeah, we are. But subtraction can be thought of as adding the opposite. Oh, baby. 5 minus 3, a problem we've done a million times. Don't even think about it. Equals 2, right? Got it. Subtraction is the same thing as adding the opposite. So instead of saying 5 minus 3, I could change that minus to a plus, because I'm going to add, right? However, I got to take this 3 on the other side, and I got to make it its opposite, which would be negative 3. So now I've got 5 plus negative 3, and that is positive 2. Okay, so subtraction can be thought of as adding the opposite. -6 minus 8. Okay, now the first number is negative in this example. That's okay. It stays negative. But the minus will become a plus, and the 8 will become a -8. Okay, and now I just got to remember my rules. Here I have the rule of 1 positive, 1 negative. Well, here they're both negative, so it becomes even more negative. -14. Okay? So I tell my students that, this is a nice little technique to turn it into an addition problem, but then I kind of actually try to discourage them from doing it so much, okay? One more example, though, and here's where I would absolutely encourage you to do it. 10 minus a -7. Whenever we have minus negative, it's really our best friend, because look what happens. The minus becomes a plus, and the -7 turns into its opposite, which is +7, and we just have 10 plus 7, and hopefully we can tackle that. So a minus negative is our best friend, because that becomes plus positive, and that makes it really easy. Okay? So, let's work a few more examples here. 7 minus 10 is the same thing as 7 plus -10. One's positive, one's negative. Means I'm really going to subtract and get a 3, but I just have to decide if it's positive or -3, and it's negative. 5 minus a -6. Minus negative is our best friend. It becomes plus positive. This one we don't have to think about because it's all positive. Nice pretty 11. -9 minus -3. Again, we have minus negative. It's our best friend. The first number never changes. In this case, it's negative. Too bad it's got to stay negative. But now we got a plus positive there at work, so we get a -6. Okay? Same thing with decimals, fractions. We could do it all. No problem. Okay? Let's pick it up with a few more. Seven minus -11. Excuse me. I'm following an example here. 7 minus -5 minus 11 minus -6 minus 19. Okay. I want to do this two ways. First, I want to do all those changes that I just talked about. Change the subtraction, so first number stays. Change subtraction to addition. Change that number to its opposite. So minus negative becomes plus positive. No problem. Change that subtraction to addition. Change this 11 to a -11. Okay? Change that subtraction to addition. Change that -6 to +6. Change that subtraction to addition. Change that +19 to -19. Okay, so we changed them all. And now that we have this addition, everything's addition, right? There are negative numbers, but everything is an addition. In some textbooks now, at this point, now they'll use the commutative property, and they'll physically relocate, all the positive numbers together. So I'm going to move that 6 and put it over here with the positive numbers, and then I'm going to physically relocate the negative numbers just so they're side by side. And some will even slap a parentheses around them. Okay? And sometimes they'll switch to a square bracket just because we already have parentheses, so we just switch to a different symbol. Now the associative property, boy, we really got it here now. It's almost impossible to make a mistake. 3 positive numbers, we got that down, right? What's that going to be, 18? A negative and another negative, when I'm adding them together, makes me even more negative, okay? So that's hard to mess up. It's just the one time here I really got to stop and think a minute and say, okay, what is it? Battle of the signs and all that good stuff. Okay, -12, we got it. That's a lot of work, okay? The way I would prefer to do a problem like this, only change the minus negatives. Leave the other subtractions alone. Minus negative becomes plus positive. Leave that subtraction alone. Minus negative becomes plus positive, and leave that subtraction alone, and mentally switch it. Okay? I just work my way through. I say 7 plus 5 is 12. 12 minus 11 is 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 minus 19, in my mind, that's a positive 7 and a negative 19, and I'm putting them together, I'm going to get a negative 12. Okay? I just like to kind of mentally do that. Okay? Can we do it on our calculator? Of course we can. Let's do it. 7 minus, remember negatives down here at the bottom, negative 5. Now we don't need to put parentheses in the calculator. In this case, there are times when you need to do that, but not to separate the minus and the negative. I don't have to do it in the calculator. Minus 11 minus negative 6 minus 19, enter negative 12. Okay? Alright, good deal. Alrighty, let me just make sure that covers it. We can throw some algebra in the mix here really quick. No biggie. Let's just do negative 4x minus 9y minus 2x plus 12y. Again, I like to mentally do it. I've got a negative 4x, and in my mind, that's a negative 2x. You say, no, it's not. It's minus a positive 2x, but I know I can call that plus negative 2x, so I just mentally do it. It's a negative 4x and a negative 2x, it's going to become a negative 6x. It's a negative 9y, and you say, no, it's not. It's minus a positive 9y, but I could call it plus a negative 9y. So in my mind, it's negative. Negative 9y and positive 12y gives me a positive 3y. Okay? I mentally make that switch to plus negative and plus negative instead of physically doing it. It's faster. Okay? It takes practice. But you can get there. Trust me. Okay. That's it for this video. We're going to multiply and divide these signed numbers in the next video, and that will be it for what would normally be the first night of class. Okay?